Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this conversation. We're talking about the DoD JELA program. My name is David White. I am out of DISA in Fort Meade. I'm the program manager for the DoD JELAs. On our agenda, we're going to talk about the purpose as well as what's our mission, what's our vision, enhancing readiness, what's the value proposition for not for industry to join these type of agreements. What's the value proposition for contracting to be part of these acquisitions as well? We have a Palo Alto rep, Alex, with us. She's going to be talking about how the Palo Alto JELA agreement supports the warfighters. We're going to talk a little bit about our future strategy in terms of the joint enterprise license agreements. Cisco as well, and Iron Bow, speaking about how their product under our agreement supports the warfighters, and the evolution of Army products with Adobe in their procurement. And we're going to go through a few use cases that's going to be helpful for you to take back, to your programs, and you'll be able to learn how can you use some of these products to its optimal capacity. So first thing, who has not heard of the JELA? By the raise of your hand, if you have not heard about JELA. Okay, great. Okay, that's good. And may I ask you what unit where you guys are located at? Okay. Okay. Great. Yeah, and we definitely want to support the COCOMs, and of course this agreement is open to all of Army as well. Some of the agreements that we're going to talk about. But the point of the DoD JELAs is we're consolidating orders, but not just for the benefit of price breaks, but for the benefit of end user experience, as well as getting consistency in our support to the warfighters, consistency and the technical advancement moving together as one voice of the DoD. So our mission is to make contracting easier and to grab the procurement and the capabilities quicker to the warfighters. So within the JELA department, what we do, we relieve the contracting departments of doing the procurement documentation. So IGCE, market research, acquisition strategy, the JNA, everything happens through the DISA office. So therefore, if Air Force wants to cut an order, Army wants to cut an order, it's already streamlined for them, quicker turnaround time. But as well as having larger agreements, you're able to have more capabilities under this agreement because now you have the full breadth of Cisco, Palo Alto, Adobe, because now each agency has different use cases, right? So also the vision for what we're doing is not just getting, like I said, better pricing, but from a program management standpoint, we want to make sure that you have access to industry as well as the end user experience with that capability as best as possible. So how does this impact enhancing readiness, right? So sometimes I think about it from a standpoint that in contracting, sometimes it's just transactional. You get the software, you get the capability, you get the design, and you award it and you give it to the person in the field, or you give it to the business user, and they just know a little bit about it, right? It's possible that they may have training. It's possible that they may know something about it. But under our agreements, we make sure that the end user has access not just to the reseller, but access to actually the OEM to learn how to use that product to its best capacity. So I'm a musician, right? So there's keyboards like Nord, Roland, and Yamaha. I would love to be able, when I buy my keyboard, that I can actually call Roland up. Hey, how can I actually use this better? I'm using it in this way. Can you show me how to do it in this environment? So that's what these agreements allows us to do. It gives us more access to the technical folks, more access to the people that are working the designs of that, as well as there's training involved. There's value-added benefits under these contracts. You can, I know Cisco has training under our contract where you can learn how to get certified certificate training as well as continuous education training. Under the Adobe agreement, we have training. You can have a one-on-one labs. You can if there's you want to do some consulting hours and you want to build out a big forms environment, you have access to just different value-added benefits as well. So in terms of enhancing readiness, the morale of the warfighter goes up because now they have support, unlimited support with that capability. So the value proposition, once again, like we said, providing the access to the top industry experts, but then under one voice, we actually now have these program management reviews where everyone together is now sharing their use cases. We know what Army is doing with this capability. We know what DHA is doing. We know what Air Force is doing. We know what Navy is doing. And we're able to build out and collaborate together. So when we talk about modernization, we talk about the SECDEFs, and we talk about General Stanton at DISA Director, modernization, and we talk about readiness, being able under one umbrella for certain capabilities and moving together helps us move together and be postured together all as one. So supporting the best pricing, this is important to us. We know what kind of year that we had in the DoD. We know what kind of cuts have happened in the DoD. So having everyone under agreement, it gives us an advantage for buying power. It gives us an advantage to negotiate the best and secure the best pricing for public sector agreements. That's what we aim to do under the JELA program. Then one of my favorite ones, fostering relationships with industry. This is very important. What I learned in my tenure here is industry wants to be part of the mission. They want to help. They want to assist. We put out RFIs as a government because we do not know as a government how to ask for the requirement or the solution. So industry's job is to come, hey, you're trying to build this. You're trying to do this. This is the outcome that you want. Let us help. Fostering those relationships with industry partner helps overall with the mission, as well as fostering relationships with our mission partners. DISA, we're fostering our relationships with Navy, with the DoD CIO, with the Army. So we're fostering those relationships to make sure that we're acting on their best behalf as well when it comes to pricing and when it comes to that total outcome of the agreement. So coming up, I have Alex here, and she's going to talk about just a little bit about Palo Alto. We know that Palo Alto supports the Thunderdome initiative that we have with DISA, but also Palo Alto has been active under our JELA since last, I think, July. And so we're still recruiting more agencies under the JELA. It's open to all of DoD. So Alex, if I could just take maybe just 2 minutes of your time and just tell us, how is Palo Alto supporting the warfighters? What's the value of Palo Alto under this agreement?
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Hi, good morning. I'm Alex Cerrone with Palo Alto Networks. We are so proud to be a mission partner for both the Army as well as DISA. They're two very important customers to us. So I'll keep it pretty brief. The TLDR on Palo is we're a consolidated security platform. We have extensive experience in the DoD, and we do three things really well: network security, cloud security, and security operations. The reason that we've built out an integrated platform is because a problem that we see across not only the DoD, but large enterprises in general, is that dozens, sometimes hundreds of disparate network and security products leave major gaps, and they create really slow response times. And we're seeing customers pay the price for that. So we're really proud to, again, work with DISA on this contract. We have a multitude of different software options on the contract, which I'd be happy to talk to you about. Please come find me. Also happy to talk about any other contracting mechanisms that you'd like to use to access Palo Alto. And again, if you have any questions at all, I'll be right over here till the end of the session. And I'd love to discuss. Did I miss anything?
No, you did not miss anything. Thank you so much,
cool.
Alex.
Of course. Thank you, guys.
So one thing that I like about the agreement, so sometimes, when things happen in one environment, you're able to kind of be proactive with that capability. Like, hey, this happened with the Navy, and now we can have this communication and kind of project maybe something of the same sort may happen with a DISA. So under these agreements, like I said, having that shared network and that shared model, it really helps even with troubleshooting as well as just projecting outcomes. So the future of the JELA, one of the things that we're doing different, we want to make sure that we are including the chief experience officers, making sure that the CTOs, everyone is involved on the pre-award side and have key performance indicators and metrics to track to make sure that the end user experience is considered in contracting now. We talked about end user experience is impacting morale as well as the training, being efficient with the product. But then IT governance, we're aligning, making sure that all of our direction is in line with the DoD CIO office. Constant collaboration is happening on that platform. Then performance management, we definitely want to be able to show metrics, not just the cost savings and cost avoidance that's happening across these agreements, but then also in terms of the use cases that are happening and the efficiencies that are happening across the agreement. We know that there's efficiencies happening just from the reduction of the labor, of not having to do the contracts and certain market research engagements. So another industry partner we have, Cisco. I have Joel from Ironbow, who is Joel. We have a coworker named Joel. You have to call him Joel, not Joel. But so we have him from Ironbow. And tell us, how is Cisco and how is Ironbow partnering up on the JELA that's helping the warfighter in our communications?
Hi, sir. Thanks. Yes, I am Joel. I'm a retired Army colonel, so Army is always near and dear to my heart. But I was a DISA for a long time as well. And but as he said, truth in lending, I'm not a Cisco employee, I'm an Ironbow employee, but we're the prime on the 4th Estate Cisco Software Enterprise Agreement. So those of you that support agencies, and I know there's some flow in for the DAFAs to the Army team, as well as the Joint World comes into the 4E. Many of you are probably familiar with the Cisco agreements that are out there with all the military departments, but the 4th Estate one is a little bit different. It's a very flexible vehicle. It is a true enterprise agreement. Hitting on some of the themes that Dave was talking about is you get what you get underneath the offering. However, there's an ability to adapt per organization, and the flexibility allows for additional software offerings that maybe isn't part of the original entitlement, or maybe additional advanced services offering. If you have a big project for 6 months a year, you need engineers. You need to implement some additional technology that maybe isn't something you acquired at the beginning of your EA. The flexibility the JELA team has built into our contract allows everyone to really kind of custom build it, pluck and chuck to what you need. And the beauty of our EA across the 4th Estate, we've got micro agencies all the way through very large macro agencies, right? So I have DPAA and DTIC, very, very small organizations, and they're able to leverage the contract and punch above their weight to get a lot more than they would traditionally get as just trying to go by themselves out to a brand new contract solicitation for whatever they're looking for, right? So as long as it stays within advanced services, software, Cisco, the sky's kind of the limit. And the team at the JELA office is very comfortable with operating with industry partners. And like I said, I'm an Ironbow guy, but we run a joint collective between the agencies who I'm talking with on a monthly basis, all the way through the Cisco very large OEM, right? So it really gives a great allowance of flexibility to the customers. And the last thing I'd say is efficiency, right? You want to stand up a new purchase order. The fastest we've delivered is within days and weeks for a brand new purchase, because they just leverage a contract and they are able to consume those software and services in a very rapid fashion instead of going out to do a brand new contract solicitation for whatever it is that they're working on. So thanks, opportunity to share a little bit, sir. Hopefully that answered what you're looking for.
No, that was great. Thank you so much. And so you said two things that kind of triggered the thought for me. One was we're familiar with bona fide need. You cannot purchase something, or you can't add nothing to the contract unless the need is actually there. But like once you have such a large umbrella of different agencies and partners under that agreement, you have access to more of the product. So even if it's not in your current fiscal needs, maybe in 2 years from now, you can procure without having to justify because it's already on the contract, because it was on the contract due to another mission partner's current need at that time. So then the other thing, like I said, affordability is huge. DMA, they're on a Fort Meade site, they're not a large agency. DTIC's not a large agency. It's getting smaller and smaller by the day. And they want to be able to afford some of the capabilities and modernize in the same fashion as Army, the same fashion as Air Force. And these JELAs allow them to be able to modernize as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about Adobe. So Adobe and how it pertains to Army. So really the JELA was really initiated off of the Army agreement and Air Force coming together in 2013. Then they went from perpetual license in 2016 to subscription license. Currently, the Army is procuring over 800,000 licenses of Acrobat, and they have access to unlimited forms transactions, which you're going to hear about that later, why that's important. They're buying over 10,000 Creative Cloud, for the public affairs and different mission that's happening across the Army as well. And you can always get your licensing and requirements needs through their PL digital marketplace, where they handle their requirements for the software. So when I look at this chart, it always takes me back to like 11th grade when I was in chemistry class, right? Some of you guys are smart. Some of you guys are taking chemistry in 9th grade, but for me, it was 11th grade. I had football practice. I had other things to do. So in 11th grade, when I was doing chemistry class, I'm looking at this, looking for helium and looking for different things. But we do recognize some of the stuff, right? But however, the important part is this is what we have access to under the JELA. And it's like, what do these things do? How does it help my environment? Hopefully today, some of the mission use cases we go through, it will help you to tie that in with this chemistry page. So we're going to talk about 3 use cases that we have with the Adobe product. The first one we're going to talk about recruiting. Recruiting is the big thing, and not just from attracting the right candidate, but also keeping the candidate engaged through the process. That becomes a problem. We know we're living at different times where the new generation, hey, if you don't call me back in a certain time, they say it's ghosting. You ghost me. so they need to feel connected to the recruiting process. So tell us about this. And I got with me John and Ken, and we're going to talk about some of these use cases that are available under the DoD Adobe JELA, which has 1.6 million users under this agreement, multiple fourth estate agencies. I think MDA, they're rolling over in November, as well as DCSA, they're rolling over in September. So this is a large agreement that's continuous to grow for our DoD mission partners. So let's talk about recruiting.
Did you want to show the video?
Yeah, let's show the video.
But before we show the video, if I can jump in real quick, David.
Yes, sir.
So we're Adobe, right? So most of you in here know Acrobat. You probably also know Adobe is Creative Cloud, right? So we're storytellers. We can't help it. It's in our blood. So we're going to take you through a story today, all right? What I want you to kind of pay attention to the video is you're going to learn about an individual and how that person even hears about what options are available for working for the DoD, right? And we're going to follow that person through that journey. And then we're going to talk about the recruiting side. What does the recruiter do? How does the recruiter stay engaged? And knowing that recruiter knows their zone, but maybe doesn't always make the best decisions on their own as far as branding, how do we keep them on brand while also leveraging their expertise in their zone, right? So that's kind of the journey we're going to take you through today is this person, how do they find out about the Department of Defense and the opportunities within it, right? The recruiter, how do they keep engaged with that person? And then what is that process once that applicant and that recruiter finally meet? So with that, let's go ahead and just take a few moments to learn a little bit about Sarah.
Recruiting the best talent is challenging in all industries, but is especially challenging in the Department of Defense. In this video, we will look at how Sarah Rose has gone from an unknown visitor to a new employee, and we will take time to also see what is happening behind the scenes to make this possible. An anonymous individual does a search for DoD cybersecurity jobs. Search results based on anonymous behavior and the most popular content is presented to the user. The search leads the anonymous individual to the career site where the user reviews the cybersecurity openings, then clicks on a cybersecurity job opening for details. From the job opening details page, this individual decides to navigate through the rest of the site to learn more about civilian careers in the DoD. But then our visitor's mind wanders and they begin browsing some travel websites since they do love to travel. Let's look at how easy it is to edit content and personalize your website using Adobe solutions. Content editors can quickly create and update content in Adobe Experience Manager through the drag and drop user interface. The team can also quickly create and test multiple user experiences and then analyze those to determine which experience drives the results that they are looking for. In this case, visitors to dive deeper into job details. The data analyst can do so much more with Adobe. Here, they can attribute impact to a specific activity that leads to enrollment and additional engagement. And they can review the end-to-end visitor journey across all channels. Then bring that together into a single visitor profile linked by a unique identifier. Our analyst is doing just that as Sarah moves through her journey from unknown to known recruit. So many other details are unknown right now, but we will see them populate as we continue through the journey. Based on the data we have now, Sarah is placed into a segment using lookalike modeling based off of her browsing. Let's jump back into Sarah's journey as she is now back online. When we last left Sarah, she was surfing travel websites. Our unknown visitor then gets serious and back to job hunting. This time, when they look at the DoD career site, they see a more personalized image based on their recent browsing activity. This visitor is interested in what they read and think that they may have this as a great career opportunity. They then take a deeper look at the job opportunities available. Here again, they receive more personalized content based on their earlier browsing of cybersecurity. The visitor clicks the job opening and this time initiates the application process. The user starts filling out the application and inputs her email, but gets distracted and does not complete the application. Let's look at the additional analytics collected about Sarah and put that to use in more personalized targeting. Our data analyst is learning more and more about Sarah. We now know her name and some basic attributes. This identity graph shows all data and connections known about Sarah so far. Based on everything we know about Sarah, including her dropping off after completing most of the form, she is placed into a segment which is then pushed to campaign to send her a personalized email. Personalized emails and messaging can be created and managed within Adobe for handling cross-channel communications, again, using a drag and drop interface to edit content. Automation and orchestration of communication and messaging can be quickly built, managed, and scheduled with Campaign's user-friendly workflow tool. These automated workflows are used now to regain Sarah's interest, but will be used again for scheduling interviews and finally for signing later in the journey. Analysts can also view reports on communications and messaging regarding sent, delivery, bounces, and more. Now, let's jump back into Sarah's journey as she receives a notification. Sarah receives an email to complete her job application so she can be considered for the role. From her mobile device, Sarah clicks the email and is taken back to her application with her form data already saved via the Forms portal. She completes the application and submits. Let's look more at online forms and the Forms portal. The job listings page here is simply an example of a Forms portal. The Forms portal makes it easy for individuals to search for and complete an online form on any device. They can also save a draft or a completed form to view later. Data collection is made more efficient while automating both user-centric and back-end processes with Adobe Forms. The data Sarah entered into this form is then saved in a draft form for her to complete later. Adaptive forms are easy to create and edit in the drag and drop user interface. Let's jump back to Sarah's journey a few days later. Sarah receives a personalized email from her assigned recruiter who begins the process with an introduction and then ends with a date and time for an in-person interview. Throughout the interview process, she receives timely updates and is in continuous communication, all tracked with Adobe Analytics. After an exciting and inspiring interview process, Sarah is offered the position. While out at dinner, Sarah receives her offer letter. She is so excited to review the details. After reviewing on her mobile device, she signs the offer. A back-end workflow automates the process of notifying internal functional areas to review and approve. Sarah then receives the final confirmation email containing the signed document and audit trail for her records. Now, you see how easy it is to give your unknown visitors a more personalized experience and therefore improve your recruiting in the digital age.
All right, so now you met Sarah. So we got to see Sarah's journey, which is great. We do want to know what, how an applicant finds their way to the recruiting office, right? And doing something like this would be a lot more personal, right? Having a lot more data, a lot more understanding of who that person is. That's good. But what about the recruiter, right? What's the recruiter doing? So I'm an Air Force veteran, spent time in a recruiting office myself, and I'll tell you a little story about how we used to do it, right? We used to, Quincy, Massachusetts, that was the, Ken Raimondi Air Force Base, right? So what did I do? I'd go to the local restaurants, the local stores with my little flyer that I made on Word and, really poorly done graphics because I didn't know any better. And I hang it up and I just blast that stuff everywhere, right? And to me, I'm like, I'm doing a good job, right? I'm getting the Air Force name out there. In reality, looking back at it, kind of feel bad because I know for a fact that Air Force logo was skewed. I probably didn't use the right fonts, and maybe people were getting a less than professional image of what the Air Force really is. Even though I had a good intention, right? I was trying to do the right thing. I definitely knew my zone. I knew where the people were, right? But I didn't exactly know how to reach them. So let's think about what we can do today, right? That would be maybe a little more efficient, a little bit better, both for the recruiter and for that experience that a future applicant might have, right? So if I'm a recruiter now, I can actually have tools at my fingertips, whether it's on a mobile device or on a laptop, that enables me to create content that isn't just like whatever Ken came up with that day, right? Now what I can do is actually create branded content using the correct logos, using the correct fonts, right? But also I'm able to leverage thousands of templates, which is wonderful because, that recruiter is probably not a graphic designer, probably isn't keeping up with the latest trends of, what kind of designs actually reach the population they're trying to reach. That's not really their job. But luckily, we do have designers in this world who know that stuff, right? And they design these templates for us. So using an online platform where I'm able to take that template, now I'm able to use something that's professionally designed, but now I'm able to tweak it to my zone, right? Because we all know that if we're recruiting an applicant in Quincy, Massachusetts, that applicant is going to be different than the applicant that we're going to recruit here in Augusta, right? There's a very, regionally, things are very different. And that's why we bring recruiters to these regions to connect with that local population. That's why we bring them in there. Those are the experts. But what we see too often is two things. Either one, they're going rogue, guilty, right? And doing what they can to make that number because they care about it. They're passionate about the job. Or two, they're only given national branded assets. Now, these are well-designed assets, well-intentioned, and they're really, smart people behind those assets. But if it all looks the same, how do I feel like this organization actually knows me, right? How do we make that feel a little bit more personal? So now let's think about that same recruiter, right? But now they're able to have these templates. They're able to leverage the brand, making sure that they stay on point, right? With making sure that they have the proper fonts, colors, all those things. But now they're making something that's tailored a little more, say, to Augusta, Georgia, right? Maybe they are helping with a football game, right? And they're going to be out there and they want to create a social media campaign for that. Well, wouldn't it be nice if they can add, maybe a football field in there from a stock library versus just having to have maybe the traditional, maybe black background or whatever it is? Just something a little bit more to connect that local audience to the Army's message, right? To make it feel personal. You can do that now, right? It's not a future state. So now instead of having, Staff Sergeant Ken Raimondi back in the day with his, Word document flyer all over the place, making the Air Force maybe look a little suspect. Now we can have recruiters that are creating gorgeous content by designers, right? Branded properly using the national brand of the Army, but tailoring it to that local audience so that they feel, wow, these folks are here for me. They're not just saying, join us, be us. They're saying, we came here for you. We understand you. Come talk to us, right? It's a much more personalized situation. So that's all good and gravy, right? We're now making good content, and maybe we make 4, 5, 6, 7 different pieces of content. We throw it out there, and I just decide what I think is best. Oh, I think this one must be working great, so let's do more of that. Does that really work? If it's just Ken's idea, in a silo, probably not, right? So there's a couple of things I want to do. One, when I make these different graphics or social media posts, there's a couple of things I want to do. One, maybe get some peer review, right? Like, hey, what do you think about this? Do you think this is going to work in my zone? Do you think this resonates with folks here? And you can give me that feedback in real time, right? Whether on your mobile device or on your desktop. Great, we all agree. These are 3, 4 awesome products. Now what? Well, let's be honest. We got to get some approvals, right? we probably don't need to just say amongst our little circle here that we know everything. So the chances are there's somebody in that chain, whether in the marketing chain, battalion chain, wherever it is, somebody who should be entrusted to say, okay, you're where the buck stops. Okay, you need to at least review these products through an approval process before it goes out the door, right? So now what we're able to do is we're still leveraging the national brand. We're empowering the local experts, your recruiters, right? But then we're also at least putting a little bit of a check and a balance on there, right? To say, okay, you got what you're talking about, but who's overseeing it? And we're doing this, again, in real time, online, on our phones, wherever we are in the world, right? Which is really awesome. So now we make these products, we did the collaboration, we got the approvals, they're out in the world. But how do we know if it's actually doing well or not, right? I mean, we can check the post and see if there's likes and things like that. But this is where I'm going to turn it back to you, John, because I'd like to know, how do we actually get more analytical data to help us decide what products are actually reaching our intended audience versus the ones that are just kind of dying on the vine?
Right. And as you can tell, Ken's got some great ideas, and he knows his business. The challenge is making sure that his ideas are attracting the individuals that he needs to track. As you saw from the video with Sarah, she was interested in cybersecurity, right? So she was attracted by cybersecurity posts. There could have been additional branding in there. And all of that is based upon, attracting those particular individuals to your website, right? So by doing that, we're constantly getting with Adobe's technology, we can track who's attracted to our websites. Once they're in the website, we can see where they're clicking, gather metrics on that to give the recruiter, Ken, the information he needs to know if his campaigns are actually working. And then once he gets that information, he can begin to create a journey for the particular individuals that he has positions for. In this particular case, the journey is going to be specific for Sarah around cybersecurity. And then as we gather more information, at first we have no idea. She's anonymous. We don't know who she is, but we do know, a pre-journey of where she's been on the website. As she starts filling out forms, we gathering more information from her. We can send her emails and identify what her favorite browsing areas are, whether it's through the website or Instagram or Facebook or whatever new social media is available out there. And we can, in real time, give all that feedback to the recruiters so that they know where the individuals are, where the candidates are in the process. And when they finally do arrive at the office, or talks to them at home on the phone, or communicates them through emails, the recruiter has personal information and can develop a much closer relationship with the individual that's been browsing the website.
John, question for you then. So I just made all these social media posts that went out in the world. Is the recruiter able to tell which posts are performing better than others? Like, how do they track that?
Absolutely. Yeah, so we're constantly gathering the information. And so the information's being gathered into the real-time customer data platform. And by having that, the recruiter is able to see which of the pieces of content are actually getting the most clicks into the website.
So it's not just because I like this one better.
It's
I'm going
not
to go
just
with that.
because you like that one
I like
better.
this photo better,
Right.
that kind of thing.
I mean, having great ideas is one thing,
Yeah.
but from a popularity standpoint, which ones are more popular? Which ideas are actually attracting cybersecurity individuals, or which ones? Maybe there's maybe you need cybersecurity professionals, but you also need sharpshooters, right? And so, which of the contents that you have that are approved, which is the piece of the content that you have approved, are actually attracting the individuals that you're hoping to attract.
I like that. So that kind of brings me to what we do with that data, right? Because here's the thing. We know in recruiting, we have different metrics we have to meet, right? Different months require certain MOSs or AFSEs, right? Versus other months, perhaps, right? So let's say, for instance, we did, we're trying to get snipers, right? And we went ahead and we created content trying to reach gun enthusiasts, things like that, to bring those folks into our fold. We get this data that you're talking about. We find out, you know what? These couple of posts performed a lot better than these other posts. Oh, well, you know what? The posts that performed better were ones that had some sort of like visual element to it beyond just, say, text and graphics, right? So this kind of brings me over to video, right? Video is not necessarily easy. So I told you Ken, the recruiter, Ken was also a video producer with the Air Force on the civilian side for about a decade. And so video was always one of these things where if you wanted a video, you better put some months behind it, right? Put some money behind it. It's going to cost time. It's going to cost money. And that can still be the case, right? Depending on the level of production. But let's think about this recruiter who's trying to put a post out for maybe a Friday night football game. That's where my Texas roots are coming from now. But maybe a Friday night football game, right? And, they're not going to necessarily have a large scale production, but they still want to create video content. So here's a couple of ways now that we can do that. You definitely have your tried and true desktop level professional filmmaking software available to you through Creative Cloud that you can definitely use that. And with that software, right, if you have somebody who maybe really wants to dig in deep and make something a little more cinematic, they could shoot something absolutely amazing on their phone now, right? Bring that into Premiere and do absolutely amazing work on it, leveraging stock footage, leveraging sound effects, leveraging music, right? All available to them right through Premiere, right? Which is really cool. But then the question comes again, this whole approval process, right? I think about when I had to share video content working for the Air Force, it was, let me export the giant video, let me upload it to DoD Safe, let me get that email out to, Colonel so-and-so, and then somebody in Colonel's office had to download the video, bring the laptop in, right? And then they're jotting notes from whatever the Colonel said about that video, and then some sort of note comes back to me either through Teams, through email, through a text, through a phone call, or God forbid, all of them, right? And it's like, how do I now, as the video editor, consolidate all the information and make any sense out of it, right? That's ridiculous. It's a huge barrier to actually getting work done. Well, let's take a step to where we are now. I can literally still be in my desktop video editor, and now what I do is I just hit send. And now the colonel, or whoever that approving official is getting that video, just like you watch the video play here, right? In a web-based format that's actually accessible to them behind Nipper. So they're able to open up this web page, say, Ken, change this photo, Ken, love this, Ken, whatever, right? And then that feedback goes directly to me in my editor. No more uploading and downloading and carrying laptops and sifting through emails and all these kind of things. It's real-time feedback. And so why does that matter? Well, because Friday Night Football is this week, right? And like, if I'm not moving fast, if I'm not staying relevant with the content that's performing well based on data that I just received, then I'm losing, right? We have to move faster. And so I share that desktop example as one, right? But we also have web examples that we can use. We have apps on our phones now that we can use, right? Adobe has these solutions available to you. So now if you're like, you know what, the desktop thing, it's a little heavy lifting for me. I need something a little easier. Well, maybe now you're picking up your phone, right? Or, maybe you're jumping on a website that Adobe has, Adobe Express, and you're able to kind of jump in there and start leveraging stock video, templates again, and you're making content super fast, super easy, really without the expertise of a video editor, right? But at least you're able to create that content based on that data and that feedback that you got quickly. And as far as the collaboration and that review process, it's still the same. I'm still able to do it through a web-based format. I'm still able to get it in real time, right? And there's no more delays to that because we know video is important. We know eyes are attracted to the video, right? If there's a solid image and that image is moving, oh my goodness, you might save the milliseconds before the next swipe. And that's really kind of the battle that those recruiters are facing, right? How do we keep that attention for just a few more seconds to get them to that message of, hey, the Army's going to be at that football game, come meet the recruiter, right? Because that's really what the end result is that face-to-face conversation. That's what we're hoping to get. And all these tools that we have that we're trying to use is to make that happen, right? Because once the recruiter gets there and talks to somebody, that's where the opportunity really exists, right? So now that we know that we're able to kind of change this, this data on the fly, we're able to use the information that we got to create data that's actually relevant to the audience that we're trying to serve. Recruiter's feeling pretty good. You know, our Sarah, she feels like, all right, I'm getting stuff from the Army that actually makes sense to me. That's pretty cool. But now what happens when Sarah gets to the office? How many of you have ever had to fill out a form online, then you show up to an office and they say, oh, can you please fill out this information again? Anybody? Don't. Thank you. I was about to say, I know I'm not alone. Every one of us have had a healthcare provider. Sorry, I'm just saying. Like, it's a, you know, and that really kind of makes, what do you feel like? I know me personally, and I'm not trying to dog any healthcare folks. This is Ken's experience speaking just personally for me. When I've gone to my doctor's office after I filled something out online, they ask me to do it again. I'm like, do you know who I am? Like, and I'm not saying that like soapbox. I'm saying, do you really know me? Because you're like my healthcare provider. If anybody knows me, it's got to be you, right? So we want to have that same kind of experience for our applicants, right? If they felt seen in the online environment because you're communicating very directly to them, man, don't let them show up in the office and be like, who are you? Oh, Daniel? Okay. Well, what can I help you with? What are you talking about? I just emailed, I filled out forms, I liked posts, and I'm coming here and you're acting like Daniel's never, you know, had anything to do with the Army in his life, right? So what do we do about that?
So, okay, looking at this use case, before we go into forms, I think it's very important to know that under the Adobe JELA, that we have a deal on this contract where it's sold to us in a really unlimited fashion. That's not normal. That's not the way that Adobe normally sells the forms. Forms are normally a transactional base, and that's the way it's consumption based, and that's the way it's normally procured. But under the DoD JELA, this is the only contract, to my knowledge, that has this type of performance model when it comes to the way it's sold to the government. So it's very important to note that under this agreement, there's high form users, of course. The Army is a high form user, but DHA as well as DLA, they're very high form users. So tell us, how does a form make life easier for the mission partners?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. White. So if you remember from the video, right, Sarah was browsing the website and seamlessly she had a web form available to her to fill out. And so if we take a look at how things are done today, in not just the Army, but most of the DoD, right, you have to find there's literally thousands of forms available to the Army and the DoD in PDF format. And you have to fill out that, you have to find the form, you have to download it, you have to fill it, digitally sign it, save it, and then submit it. And the way we submit it is through email. You send it through email, you lose track of it, it gets lost in the shuffle, that causes delays in the process. Once the process has been completed, typically what happens is that form gets downloaded to a shared drive somewhere. That shared drive is typically SharePoint, and SharePoint really doesn't give us access to the information that's in those forms. So with AEM forms, as you saw in the video, you have access to the complete life cycle of not just PDF forms, but adaptive HTML forms, so that you can view those forms on your browser or on your personal device. It can be, the information can be pre-filled with personal information personal credentials that have been derived from your credentials, typically through your CAC card, so making form filling much easier. You could save it and come back and fill it out later when you're ready. Some of these forms are rather long, and then once you finally submit it, it gets submitted into an automated workflow where they can be routed to the proper individual for approval. Once they get approved, we can integrate all the information into your back-end systems, and we're constantly tracking the information, where it is in the process, where the bottlenecks may be, giving you information to optimize the process. what are the completion and abandonment rates? How can we make the forms processing much easier? And then, all this basically what the impact is, we have an intuitive, compliant, modern form, which reduces manual effort, shortens submission and processing times, and reduces errors.
Well, and that makes it easy for everybody, right? That's the thing. If you think about this, not only are we doing this for Sarah, who we do want to have a good experience, right? You want her to start her career in the Army the right way, right? But we're also doing this for the recruiters. Because I can tell you, when I was recruiting, I had to fill out the same information multiple times in multiple places. And that was just kind of a buzzkill, right? Nobody wants to be doing that kind of thing over and over again. So having something that's more streamlined that enables you to keep that data from the first time through the rest of the time and not having to input it over and over and over again is a better experience for everybody, right? And let's not lose track of why all this matters, right? Because at the end of the day, right, we want an army that's the most lethal army in the world, right? We want an army that keeps everybody else, all the enemies, at bay. And I say this as a 24-year, 13-year active duty, 10-year civilian with the Air Force. I understand the importance of this. But to do that, you got to have a force that's ready. And how do you have a force that's ready if you're not able to attract the right candidates to your recruiting offices and then keep them through the process, right, in a way that is advantageous to them and the recruiter, right? Well, you do that by creating efficient mechanisms to do so, right? Whether those mechanisms are the more human, HR kind of stuff, or it's forms, or it's data collection, marketing data, those kind of things, or it's literally the marketing materials that recruiters are creating. How do we get more efficient with that stuff, right? So all of this leads to the end result. And I like to kind of make that word picture because I think it's important not to forget what the end result is, right? We can talk about, let's make this nice for Sarah. Let's make this nice for the recruiter. That's a good thing to know, but don't forget why we're doing that. We're doing that because of the end result, right? We want people, the best and the brightest, to serve our country, right? And if we come at them with poorly made graphics in a restaurant with little tear-offs that look like a child made them, like maybe Staff Sergeant Raimondi did back in the day, you're probably not going to necessarily recruit the best talent, right? So, with that, Mr. White, I'll bring it back to you.
Right. So we do have an example.
You guys have a DoD
AEM
use
forms.
case? Yeah, okay.
And Navy Personnel Command, actually, they've been using AEM forms for more than 10 years. They used AEM forms to convert their paper forms to adapt to interactive fillable PDF forms and adaptive forms. They have also implemented pre-fill capabilities where they're gathering personal credentials right from your CAT card. Everything gets submitted into automated workflows. Everything gets tracked. Everything's audited. And the impact is today, they have thousands of forms being processed weekly with fewer errors, less completion errors, and improved communications due to automated notice generation.
Great. Thank you so much. So just going back to the take advantage, and can we go back to the use cases? I just want to highlight one more thing. So to the agenda use cases, the list. So oh yeah, that one. Yeah. So the JELA mission use cases. So just for everyone's knowledge, Caresoft, they have a booth in the other hall area. You can go through these use cases. They have a little portal if you want to see something about Zero Trust, about the CAC signing, about the next generation briefing. Those will be available to you. Once again, I want to thank our partners, as well as Ironbow and Cisco and Palo Alto. Under this agreement, you're able to have access to all the things that you saw within the Adobe platform. Also, the DISA JELA PMO, our booth is over there, right behind you. If you have any questions, if you want to talk about your capabilities or talk about how can your agency benefit more, or you want to get in contact with someone regarding Palo Alto or Cisco or Adobe, we can make that contact for you as well. But I thank you, Ken and John, for your time, for your effort in this. This presentation was built in Adobe Express, and it was just converted over to the PDF. So Adobe Express can be used in briefings such as this. Any last statements did we miss?
Yeah, thanks. I'll just end with this. And this is not a future state we're presenting. This is a now state. So right now, the U.S. Army is actually fielding a lot of these technologies behind the Nipper firewall to test it out. So if there's something that you've heard today and you're like, wow, I want to get my hands on that, start asking who was the software
Asset manager.
Software asset manager. Thank you. So that's who you're going to want to talk to see how you can get your hands on this. And the last piece, thank you for that, John, is the QR code here. If you want to scan that, that'll take you to a post-event guide where we have more use case videos for you to dig into. You can also sign up for the JELA newsletter that comes out every couple months. That newsletter is absolutely stacked with all the information. As you know, as you saw on the periodic table of Adobe, which I love that, by the way, there's a lot. Adobe's a big company, right? They have a lot of different software options. I know it can be tough to navigate. It's even tough to navigate sometimes working for Adobe, isn't it? And I'm looking at my Adobe counterparts. So what we mean by that, though, is this is why the JELA newsletter and other resources exist to help you navigate through that. Because there's Adobe, but then there's like maybe 3 or 4 pieces of software that you actually care from the maybe 30, 40 plus pieces of software we offer, and that's okay. Just know where to navigate to find out what that is, right? So if you scan that QR code, you'll be able to sign up for that newsletter and stay informed on the latest technology that Adobe is putting out there, whether on the marketing, data, forms, website, tracking, all that, or on the creative side with Creative Cloud, Adobe Express, Frame.io, and tools like that. So again, David, thank you so much for the time, and thank you all for sitting in this very kind of loud, hot room and paying attention to what we're saying. I appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you.
If you have any colleagues, we'll be doing this again at 2 o'clock today. Thank you so much.